Hello, a very good evening. It's coming up to 4 minutes past 4. Welcome to the LBC UKIP Leadership Debate. It's the first time the four candidates have debated each other. They're here live, taking your questions for the next hour. They are the leader of UKIP in the European Parliament, Paul Nuttall, former Deputy Chairman Suzanne Evans, culture spokesman GLA member Peter Whittle, and former UKIP candidate for Cardiff, John Rhys-Evans. 0345 6060 973. And you can watch the whole debate on the LBC website at lbc.co.uk and on Facebook Live on the LBC Facebook page. Well, welcome to all four of you. We're going to get straight into it and go to the calls. Victoria is... You need to put your headphones on, by the way.
All right.
It's radio, after all, even though people can watch. Victoria is in Stansted. Victoria, what's your question?
Oh, hello there. Good afternoon. I agreed recently with Stephen Wolf, who claimed that UKIP is ungovernable and in a death spiral, and I wondered who you think is to blame for that state of affairs.
Suzanne Evans.
Ungovernable? You just watch me. I'll show you, Victoria. It's definitely not ungovernable. You know, we might have had some troubles in the past, but all political parties go through tough spots. But I think UKIP, we had 4 million voters at the general election. We have a great manifesto on which to build more policies. I think we have a real opportunity now because the Labour Party is so utterly failing working people in this country. I think this is a world of opportunity for UKIP out there. And if I'm leader, I cannot wait to get started.
But with all of the things that have gone on since the referendum, Nigel Farage's will he, won't he sort of continue or not, with what happened with Diane James, with the role of the National Executive Committee, which I know is a bit of a sort of Westminster bubble thing. But your party is seen by the outside world as in a complete and utter mess and ungovernable. But you don't seem to recognise that description.
We have the chance to wipe the slate clean. We're here, all four of us, all good candidates who I know can take the party forward. And that's where we must start from. I said wipe the slate clean. I think I actually want to clarify that. We have a great legacy that Nigel Farage has left us that we can build on. But now, chance for a new leader to perhaps take a slightly new approach.
Hang on a minute, because you said that UKIP's image was toxic. That surely is Nigel Farage's legacy. Well, you did it. I heard you say it myself.
No, I didn't say that at all. I mean, why would I be in a party if I thought that was the truth?
You said the party needs to shed its toxic image. You said it on the Andrew Marr show.
That's very different from saying it's toxic. We're talking about an image. And I'm in UKIP, and part of the reason I want to lead UKIP is because I want to show a wider range of people just how fantastic UKIP is and what great policies we have.
John Rhys-Evans, most people listening to this programme, with respect, will have never heard of you. Why do you think that, first of all, do you think that UKIP is ungovernable, and how can you, as somebody who's relatively unknown, make it governable?
The fact is, I think that if things continue the way they are, if we have business as usual, UKIP will indeed be ungovernable. I believe that we need to have major reform in UKIP, and I'm not talking about minor configurational changes. I'm talking about implementing a system of internal direct democracy. As long as potential leaders are always vying against each other to determine who should determine the future direction of the party, there will always be conflict. But if we transfer decision-making powers from the leadership to the membership, we will never be in conflict because everybody in this country respects
well in the Labour
democracy.
Party, hasn't it?
No, they don't have direct democracy in the Labour Party. UKIP would be the first political party in Britain to implement it. You understand what I mean by direct democracy?
I do understand what you mean, but what I meant by that was Labour has given its members far more power, and it actually hasn't helped them, has it?
No. What I'm talking about has absolutely nothing to do with what Labour has done. I'm talking about a highly systematic system whereby every member from everywhere within the country, from the farthest reaches of Scotland, the Outer Hebrides, to West Wales, all over the country, people who don't have the opportunity to rub shoulders with the highly placed people in London, they will have just as much opportunity to determine the future direction of the party as the leader himself.
OK, Peter Whittle, is it ungovernable?
Completely not, actually. I think that this is one of the problems, really, with the whole discussion about us at the moment. when you look at most political parties, UKIP is extraordinarily united.
Oh, come on.
It is extraordinary.
You're a rabble.
No, we are not a rabble.
Look at the conflict in Wales between Neil Hamilton and the guy that actually was leader of UKIP in Wales. Look at the conflicts between Suzanne and Nigel Farage and Aaron Banks's comments over the past few weeks. You are totally disunited.
No. Look, I'm talking about the membership. We've got 40,000 members. They are extremely united in what they believe. Everybody knows what we believe, and that is extraordinary these days in politics. What we've got to do, of course, is sort out, if you like, the people at the top and get all of that sorted out so we can go forward. I think that
what makes you the person to do that?
Because for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, UKIP needs a period of stability. My temperament is a stable one. I don't search for conflict. That's for sure. It also, hang on, let me finish.
Who's unstable around the table?
No, I'm not saying that.
You said you're stable, so that indicates you think maybe one or two of these aren't.
No, it doesn't. But I think that basically...
Well, why bring it up?
Because it's what actually we need as a party. We need, as a party, a period of stability.
Was
need
Nigel
a period.
Farage unstable?
No, not at all. But you just said
you're the one that brought up the word. So
yes,
therefore
because
that differentiates you from other candidates. That's all I'm trying to point out.
No, because the question you asked me, Ian, was simply that we are a rabble, that we're ungovernable, and all the rest of it.
Do you want to retract that word?
No, I do not want to. We need a period of stability. We need a period, therefore, of morale boosting, and then we need to be inspired. And those three things are the important steps for UKIP going towards the 2020 election.
Do you think that you are more inspirational than Paul Nuttall?
I think that I wouldn't be in this race unless I thought actually that I could do the right job. I think we're all excellent candidates.
Because he can be quite charismatic when he puts his mind to it, can't he?
Yeah, absolutely. We all have different skills, but I think that what I would say is that it's terribly important at the moment that we have just a period of calm and of rebuilding. But then after that has to come inspiration.
I don't think 4 weeks of a leadership contest is the recipe for calm, but there we go. Paul Nuttall, you are pitching yourself as the unity candidate. How can you govern what I've just described as a rabble?
Going back to Victoria's question, Ian, we haven't covered ourselves in glory. Not just over the past couple of months, but probably over the past year, really. UKIP has been dysfunctional. It's quite clear. And I think UKIP at the moment is basically peering over the edge of a political cliff. And it will either step off or it will step back. And I believe I'm the best candidate to ensure that UKIP doesn't step off that political cliff, simply because I've done every major job in the party. I've been the party chairman. I've been the head of policy. I've been the deputy for 6 years. I lead the MEPs. I've got the most experience by a country mile. I'm not part of any faction or other. We need someone to come in now, bring everyone together, unite, come behind a banner, let bygones be bygones, forgive but not forget, and move forward.
Who is responsible for taking the party to the edge of this cliff?
I think, basically, I said this in my conference speech. Nobody is coming out of this with their head held high, OK?
I wasn't necessarily... I probably won't think I was talking about Nigel Farage then. I wasn't actually. I was talking about you, because you have been deputy leader for... How long is it?
6 years. And Ian,
so you've got to take your responsibility
for that. In my conference speech, I made it clear that I am partly to blame for this. We now need to move on, let bygones be bygones, and ensure that it is day zero.
Hold on, Ian. So what you're saying, it's like Gordon Brown saying, well, I've wrecked the economy, but please make me Prime Minister.
No, hang on. It needs to be day zero for the new leader of this party, and everybody has to move on, because we have a fantastic opportunity. There are open goals in British politics. You just look at working class communities where the Labour Party don't represent many people anymore, but we have to be on the pitch to kick that ball in the net, and I believe I'm the best candidate to ensure UKIP stays
Victoria,
on the pitch.
very quickly, what do you like of what you've heard? What don't you like?
I'm a Tory voter, but I like what Suzanne Evans says, and I'll watch to see if she can unite the party to follow her vision, and if she can, I'll vote for her. OK, well, that leads into the next question quite nicely. But if you want to watch us, we're on Facebook Live on the LBC Facebook page. You can search for that, or you can go to the LBC website at lbc.co.uk. Philip's in Birmingham. Hi, Philip. What's your question?
Hi there. Good evening. My question is, Suzanne, are you a Tory stooge? Listen. Let me just say, right? You've fallen out with Nigel. You've aligned yourself with Mr. Carswell, and Mr. Carswell certainly hasn't got UKIP at heart. If he did, he'd be sitting right there now with you, shouting from the rafters what a great party this party is, just like Peter did yesterday on the Daily Politics when he said, I love this party with a passion.
And so do I.
Well,
Philip.
Suzanne, I'm going to let you answer this in a minute.
Okay,
I want to see what the others think. Do any of you think that Suzanne is a Tory, Paul?
No, she's not, and she's not a Tory stooge.
She was a Tory.
No, but she was a Tory party member. She's not a Tory stooge. She's not a planter, anything like that. Look, UKIP has got to move beyond this. It's got to move beyond Carswell UKIP, Farage UKIP. It has to be UKIP, a UKIP for everyone, a big tent where no one's marginalised and all talents are utilised. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table.
John?
Well, I will concede that I've heard such conjectures in the past, but I don't want to comment on whether or not I think that she may have more affinity with the Conservative
we are trying to have
Party.
a debate here. The whole point is for you to comment.
Let me tell you why. Because what you're actually trying to do is to get us to all attack each other.
I'm not trying to get you to do anything. I'm trying to get you to answer the question that Philip put to you. That's what you're here to do.
I will answer the question, and I was in the process of answering the question. I don't have sufficient data on Suzanne Evans to know whether she has
have you been
stronger
living for the past few years
in Wales. I don't know whether she has stronger affinity with the Tory party than UKIP. I'm open-minded on the subject. Okay, I'm willing to be convinced either way. Okay.
What would convince you out of interest? Because it sounds to me like you've already made your mind up about me. We've only just met.
Well, I'll tell you what would convince me, Suzanne. If you were to retract a comment that you made about a candidate who was democratically elected by a ratio of 10 to 1 in the London Assembly hustings. I think you know the one I'm referring to.
Alan Craig.
What's that got to do with my being a Tory plant or not?
Well, no, I will tell you exactly what it's got to do with it, because the Tories like to dictate top down, whereas UKIP believes in freedom of conscience. Yeah, you can mock. Did you work for the BBC? I mean, by all means mock, okay, but the reality is that UKIP believes in freedom of conscience. And when you tell the public on a forum, on the internet, that it is unacceptable for a person to have traditional Christian views, that doesn't sound UKIP to me.
Look, I don't want to get into this argument because
I'm sure you don't.
Well, actually, no. Let's get into this argument because I think that this actually shows where there are very different views here. Alan Craig, former leader of the Christian People's Alliance, has made very many homophobic comments in the past.
Could you tell me one?
Well, as I sit here, obviously I haven't got the quotes in front of me.
Well,
I've interviewed him several times, so I know exactly what Mr. Craig's views are. Suzanne was taking him on his homophobia. Now, shouldn't any politician want to be able to do that?
Any politician in a capacity as a person commenting on another person's views can say whatever they like. Okay, I'm a libertarian. Okay. What the deputy leader of a party cannot do is to override a democratic process that's happened in a hustings whereby people have democratically elected somebody by a majority of 10 to 1 and essentially trash his reputation online. And when subsequently he asks her to meet and say, please, could we discuss this? Because I think you've misapprehended my views. She doesn't take any kind of opportunity to meet with him and thrash things out and ensure that there's reconciliation.
OK, a few things. First of all, I knew that Mr. Craig had been refused permission to be a candidate twice, so I thought there had been a mistake. And I think as deputy chairman of the party, I had a responsibility to highlight, as I did privately, that there had been a mistake. UKIP is a party that, as you say, is libertarian. It enjoys a wide range of views. It absolutely stands up for people's rights and responsibilities, and it respects that people have different views. However, I think there is a higher bar for our candidates than there is for an ordinary member of our party. And I think any candidate that expresses views which alienate a large section of our community is someone who, needs to perhaps reconsider their commitment as a candidate.
Okay, so
all I have done, if I can just say, I also think part of the reason I think I make a good leader is because I do stand up for what I believe in. I will not tolerate racism. I will not tolerate homophobia. I will not tolerate discrimination.
So everyone has to agree with you, or you throw them out of the party. They don't have a right to stand.
I've not thrown anyone out of the party.
You said he should stand down and shouldn't have got through the vetting
for
process.
what I believe in.
And so do I, and so does Alan Craig.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, look, I don't mind what you believe. I'm happy for you to believe whatever you want to believe, but don't tell me what to believe.
All right,
don't tell Alan Craig
what
what to
telling
believe.
you what to believe.
John,
I'm just saying
you asked for a quote
party.
from Alan Craig. Let me see what you think of this.
Let's go for it.
In an article for the Church of England newspaper,
Yes.
Alan Craig wrote that gay rights stormtroopers take no prisoners as they annex our wider culture, adding that the legalisation of same-sex marriage was proof that Nazi expansionist ambitions are far from sated. Do you think that's something that a UKIP candidate should be saying?
Do you know, it's interesting, because my campaign manager, who happens to identify himself as gay, would say pretty much the same thing. He very much opposes this militant attitude that a lot of the LGBT...
So he identifies himself as gay. What does that even mean?
I don't know
was he not born gay?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
I've never heard anyone use that expression before.
Okay, sorry, do you want me to answer the question, or do you want to have a semantical debate?
Do you believe that people were born gay? I want you to answer that question.
I haven't got a clue. Okay, ask a scientist. Okay, but you asked me a previous
but I do
question.
Know that.
Okay, well, okay, maybe you do. Maybe you know more about it than me. But can we answer the question you asked, which was what?
Is that acceptable for a UKIP candidate to say that on a public platform?
It is entirely acceptable for a UKIP candidate to have any views that he likes.
Racist views?
Well, look, the reality...
No, seriously, if you can be homophobic, surely a UKIP candidate can be racist.
Yes. Now,
okay.
Okay, no. I've just said yes in the sense that I understand what you are saying.
Well, what's the answer to the question?
Okay. Firstly, I'd need you to define what you mean by racist.
I think we all know what racist means. If you really need that defined for you, I'm not sure you should be sitting in that chair.
Are you assuming that your listeners are simplistic?
I'm assuming that they're seeing through your ridiculous comments at the moment. You know exactly what racist means.
Okay, ad hominem attacks.
Do you know what racist means?
Racist can be interpreted in two ways. One is that it differentiates between people on the basis of race.
Yeah.
Okay. Another is that it treats people unfairly because of their race. What do you mean when you talk about racist?
Well, let's talk about the second one of those. Do you think it's acceptable for a UKIP candidate to hold those views?
No, of course
not. So why do you think it's okay for a UKIP candidate to be homophobic?
He's not homophobic.
Well, how else would you describe those comments?
What he is saying is that the LGBT militant wing, not people who happen to be gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender, not individual people who do that, but people who go and they protest against evangelicals, Christians' rights to have their own views. These people are militant and don't have a right to
Peter
do
Whittle,
that.
Let's get back to the question. Is Suzanne a Tory? Or Tory stooge, I think, was the or plant.
No, I mean, look, we've all come in this party from different parties, many of us. I think there are quite relatively few people actually in UKIP who haven't been involved in another party at some form or time. I was a Tory, up until about 2005, for what it's worth. There are many people who've been in Labour, now in the Labour Party, should I say. And basically, it's pretty much an absolute mixture.
So you won't throw that at Suzanne?
No, I won't throw that at Suzanne at all. I do, though, take exception to some of, John's remarks here. I mean, first it has to be made clear, this party chose as its mayoral candidate a gay man, me, the only mayoral candidate who was gay, right? So basically, your comments are not representative. And the comments that you've actually made, recently are not representative, John.
So what comments, Peter?
One's in the last 5 minutes for a start.
No, they're not.
I was trying to answer a convoluted question.
Listen, the problem with this, in a way, is that basically we are going down talking about very relatively obscure people, relatively arcane matters that basically can't be of much interest to the people listening.
We're talking about a very important principle, and that is liberty of conscience. I don't care what sexuality a person is. If they love their country and they want to serve, I'm happy to work with them. But what is not acceptable is for Suzanne to say that because a person has traditional views, he cannot be a candidate in UKIP.
Traditional views, though.
It is a traditional view. I mean, this country has a strong Judeo-Christian heritage.
We could probably talk about this for the next hour, but I think we need to move on. Suzanne Evans, you stand accused of being a Tory plant.
I gave up possibly a job for life as a Conservative councillor in one of the safest wards in my area. I did so out of utter conviction that the Conservative Party was not serving the people of this country, and UKIP was. I stand by that. I have no regrets. If I was a Tory plant, I think given some of the accusations I've had thrown at me in the last 18 months, I would have run quite some time ago. I think my loyalty to this party, the fact that I'm sitting here in this chair, should tell you everything you need to know about my loyalty to my party.
Are you relieved Raheem Kassam is not sitting in that chair? Although after the last few minutes you may wish she was, I don't know.
I think Raheem is a very talented young man, actually. I think he could go far in life, but I think he needs to perhaps use his talents in a wiser way in future.
But are you relieved he did drop out in the end?
I'm not sure it's relief because
he
had every right to stand. He's made his decision to stand down, and I'm sure that was the right one.
It would have been an uglier fight if he had been involved in this debate.
I'm not so sure.
Okay.
Can I just say, Raheem, this was a very civilised guy. He's not going to start tearing the place down.
Let's face it, he has a divisive reputation. We all saw the tweets and everything. Adam in Barnes has texted, quick answer to this, all four of you if we can. Is Douglas Carswell a force for good in UKIP? Paul Nuttall.
He can be in the future.
But isn't at the moment.
Hang on. What we need to do is to bring everyone in together. And if I'm elected leader, one of the first things I will do is I will go to the House of Commons and I'll meet with Douglas. I'll go and see Lord Pearson in the House of Lords. I'll go and see Neil Hamilton in the Senate. I'll go and see the MEPs, which I lead in the European Parliament, the NEC, and basically ensure that everyone comes together. And it can happen and it can work.
Peter Whittle.
I think that what I would say is that we should have a period where we all try to sort out quite what the situation is, particularly with Douglas. We've had books come out recently about the referendum, for example, and they have sort of said about what basically Douglas's plan, as it were, was with UKIP.
Which was allegedly to undermine Nigel Farage. That was the reason he joined.
That's right. So basically, these are in books, these are in publications. I've not heard, I've not heard Douglas say anything about this. I'd like to get to the bottom of it. What's certainly the case, though, is that basically at the moment, it does feel very much like we have a semi-detached MP.
Well, Suzanne Evans, you work for this semi-detached MP in his parliamentary office. Presumably you've had these conversations with him. Presumably you've asked him whether he intended to undermine Nigel Farage when he joined UKIP.
I have, and he did not. Douglas is one of the most principled men I met. And I think, all of us around this table, I'm sure if we believed everything that was written about us in the newspapers, we'd go mad, actually. People in UKIP, I think, we have to look at what Douglas brings to the party, and actually having a member of Parliament in the House is a great asset.
But he's been a very divisive influence in UKIP, has he not?
I think some other people have tried to paint him out as being divisive for actually doing nothing more than, as Jonathan has just said, having his own opinions and perhaps putting across UKIP policy in a slightly different way to Nigel Farage. They have a very different tone. But, when Nigel was on LBC on Sunday morning, I was listening to him, and at one point he was talking about corporatism.
That's interesting in itself.
Cronyism. Oh, no, I always enjoy listening to Nigel. He was talking about corporatism and cronyism. And I thought, my goodness, those words could have come out of Douglas Carswell's mouth. But they actually have more in common than you would think.
But Nigel Farage once said to me, I think it was live in this studio, he said that Douglas Carswell was a cuckoo in the UKIP nest. Hands up if you agree with that statement, because he certainly really did.
Okay, well...
No, none of you?
No,
okay.
Well, I wouldn't put my hand up because I need to qualify my response, okay? But what did disappoint me immensely about Douglas Carswell is that at a time where we needed leadership and unity, he came out quite clearly critically against Nigel Farage. I think that was unfair.
So you're not allowed to criticise the leader in this party?
You are allowed to criticise what the leader does, but no. Don't criticise a leader, criticise what he does.
Do you think the leader should be criticising other people in the party as well?
It's like this, Suzanne. If you have a child, do you just tell the child they're useless and they need to go, or do you look at a problem that they're having and say, look, let me help you with this, let's discuss it, let's work something
out? Guys, look, this is all looking backwards, okay?
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. Yeah. We want to look forward.
Okay, well, let's look forward with our next questioner. Sarah's in Tooting. Hello, Sarah.
Yes, hi. I do have to say, I'm beginning to find this debate really, I almost put the phone down and didn't continue.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I've got a question, And I'm keen to put it, but I nearly actually hung up halfway because all I can hear are people barracking each other. I can hear you interrupting them. I'm trying to follow a train of thought, and then you interrupt. One of them is, well, you've got one man shouting over another. I'm not getting any clear. And I did vote UKIP last time round. So for me, it's actually quite important to get a feel.
Okay, Sarah, well, what's your question?
When you're carrying on with this, that you try, all of you, to bear in mind your listeners. The question I've got is, since the Labour Party seems to have an ineffectual male leader and the Conservatives seem to have a strong female leader, what do you think that having a female leader for UKIP would give the party an edge over Labour and would also bring you level with the Conservatives?
John Rhys-Evans.
No, I think that's entirely flawed reasoning. I employ about 800 people, and I don't employ anyone on the basis of their gender, their race, their sexuality. I employ them on the basis of merit.
Peter?
It shouldn't make any difference at all. I think, frankly, it's a question of what that person says. It's as simple as that. There are, huge numbers of people in this country who loathe and detest Mrs. Thatcher, for example, Margaret Thatcher. Hate, and that includes many, many women. And the fact is, just because she was a woman leader did not automatically mean that people would vote for her, women would vote for her. And that's actually as it should be. I wouldn't expect the people of London, the gay guys of London, to have voted for me as a gay mayor. I would be on a hiding to nothing if I did.
They didn't. Suzanne Evans, it's interesting you had a female leader for all of 18 days. How can we be sure that you would last longer?
I made of pretty tough stuff, me. I think you know that, Ian. Peter's absolutely right. What gender you are really shouldn't matter. And I don't think it will to our members. They will choose the best man for the job, whether that is a man or a woman.
Paul?
I think it's irrelevant. I think it's what you do and what you say and how you act and the agenda which you push. As for Theresa May, she seems to be doing a half-decent job at the moment, but I'm pretty sure the honeymoon period won't last that long, and we've got to be there to ensure that we hold the government's feet to the fire on Brexit, and we don't end up getting some sort of mealy-mouthed version where we end up in the single market and we're stuck with freedom of movement of people, we're stuck handing over more money to Brussels, and we can't control our own laws.
Well, we're halfway through our debate. We're here with you until 6, or at least I'm with you till 7, but our 4 candidates are here with you until 6. So let's have a little bit of a breather now and get the LBC News headlines at 5:30 with Rupert Bartier. It's coming up to 25 to 6. We're halfway through our UKIP Leadership Debate. With me in the studio are Paul Nuttall. By the way, you can watch us at lbc.co.uk and on the LBC Facebook page. This is Paul Nuttall. He's leader of the UK Independence Party in the European Parliament, former deputy leader. Suzanne Evans wrote UKIP's election manifesto in 2015. She was also deputy chairman of the party. Peter Whittle sits on the GLA. He was UKIP's candidate for Mayor of London earlier this year. And John Rhys-Evans stood in Cardiff South and Penarth in 2015. He's a former soldier. Right, let's carry on with your calls. Maria is in Loughton. Hello, Maria.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, Maria. What would you like to ask?
Yes, I'm a Spanish national and I lived in this country for many years. How responsible do you feel that I had been verbally abused and made feel unwelcome since the referendum and this current Brexit situation?
Paul Nuttall.
Well, look, I'm very sorry, Maria, if you've been verbally abused, and no one should have to go through that. And but the bottom line is this: I don't feel responsible because Brexit is a great thing. Brexit means that we are now in control of, or will be, hopefully, in the future if Mrs May goes through with what she's promised. But I believe that we should probably move forwards with and abolish the 1972 European Communities Act first, and then we can get control of our own borders, we can control our own laws, we'll be able to save a lot of money.
We don't want to rehash all of those arguments. We're familiar with those arguments, but what Maria is saying, that the whole Brexit debate has meant that she, and I've heard many other people say this on this radio station, people from European countries, that they have gone through the same experiences as Maria. Now, it will be hiding your head in the sand to deny that there must have been some influence, because this didn't happen before.
Well, if you look at the hate crime figures, they didn't go up substantially. But I will say that I think both sides in the referendum debate pushed the boundaries. I've said this before, but that happens.
How did your side push the boundary?
Well, you know, we're talking about the £350 million per day and whatnot. What about
that Nigel Farage poster issued on just hours before Joe Cox was murdered? I mean, that's it. A lot of people thought that was over the top, and that's partly contributing to the experiences that people like Maria are having.
Look, that post had nothing to do with Joe Cox's death. Please don't put that in the same sentence.
I know that.
Look. The point behind
was it the right thing to do?
Well, the point behind that poster was absolutely correct. I mean, we do need to get control of our borders, and there is a deluge of people coming from the Middle East, and the European Union's idea of a common asylum policy certainly isn't the right route to go down. But let me finish quickly about Maria. People shouldn't be put under attack or feel threatened. There'll be no one who's asked to leave this country as a result of Brexit. People who are European nationals who are here will not be forced to go home at all. So please, Maria, don't worry. And UKIP is not that kind of party.
But do you accept that there has been a rise in this incidents since Brexit?
There has been a slight rise, but, you know, I've spoken to the police about this, and that happens after any national event. This is nothing out of the ordinary. The rise hasn't been that substantial. Again, I feel very sorry for Maria, and she shouldn't have to go through it. But in the end, this will all calm down. Brexit isn't going to mean the end of the world. In fact, what it will mean is that we'll be able to hand a better country onto our children.
Peter Whittle.
Yeah, it's terrible to hear that, Maria. The point to make actually about the hate crime thing, because we've actually been looking at this in the London Assembly in great detail, is that it has been going up anyway. That doesn't excuse what happened to you, but it has been going up. The only point I would make is that in July, straight after the Brexit vote, actually a huge amount of hate crime was actually more related to the various terrorist attacks that were happening at the time. So that might be one of the reasons it's happened. But to get back to your point, I don't think it's fair, Maria. I really don't think it's fair, even though this is bad that's happened to you.
Sorry, Peter, I'm going to have to pick you up on that, because, I mean, Maria is a Spanish lady.
Yeah.
Why would she be verbally abused by people as a result of terrorist attacks?
Because the kind of people who verbally abuse just lash out at anyone. They don't know the nuances of what someone is or whatever.
Maria, did you want to come in on that?
Yes. First of all, I don't look that way, and so nobody knows anything about me until I open my mouth. And when I open my mouth is when the abuse starts. It's all to do with you versing Europe to Great Britain. It's the war of Europe. You created a war.
Maria, this is ridiculous. We did not create a war. I mean, the fact is, 17.5 million people voted in the biggest democratic vote.
I don't think you should call Maria ridiculous. She's
I did not call her ridiculous.
Well, you kind of did. She's gone through some very painful experiences, clearly, and she thinks that it has only happened since Brexit. She didn't have this before Brexit, so you can see why she's drawing the link.
Yeah, sure. And of course, newspapers as well have hugely drawn the link. Right, but as I said, hate crime generally as an issue is one that we've got to look at, and it has been rising generally even before Brexit.
All right, John?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, Maria, I'm extremely sorry to hear that you have been treated in that way. That's terribly sad and entirely unacceptable. What I think we really need to look at is the irresponsibility of the media in the run-up to Brexit. You see, the media was at pains to castigate UKIP as the originators of Brexit as racist, and therefore anyone who embraced the cause of border control was therefore, by association, racist. Now, since
who was doing this in the media?
Okay, look, I think you know very well that there have been allegations made against UKIP of racism. You can't... Yeah, okay, all right.
Absolutely.
Now, since UKIP instigated the process of Brexit, anybody who supported border control was therefore tarnished with the same false allegation of racism. Then when we won, the genuine racists, those ugly people who genuinely dislike people from other countries, were essentially encouraged by the identity of 17 million people as being co-racists with them, because if you embraced border control, you were racist. So I think the media needs to take a lot of responsibility for that.
Suzanne, was that poster racist?
I don't think it was racist, but I don't like it. I think it was insensitive and ill-judged. Maria, I'm very sorry to hear your story. I know what it's like. I've been abused on the street as well for voting Leave. And I think what this means is that if there are some nasty people out there who want to cause aggro, there are nasty people out there who are going to cause aggro, and they're going to find any excuse that they can. I think you have a beautiful voice. And I'm very proud to say that I'm sitting on a working group at the moment, which is looking at how we can make a better future, a brighter future, a more secure future for EU nationals already living in Britain. And we'll report on that later in the year.
Maria, thank you very much indeed for your call. Well, sort of allied to what we've just been talking about, actually, let's talk to Mark in Milton Keynes. Hello, Mark.
Hi there.
Hello, what's your question?
I'm 32 and I've never voted. I just wanted to ask, how would UKIP go about obtaining my vote when I currently believe that the party represents racist forces in the UK?
Paul Nuttall.
Well, look, I mean, UKIP is the only party in Britain which has a blanket ban on anyone who's ever been a member of the BNP or a member of the National Front or any other extremist organisation. I was the party chairman that put that in place, OK? We're a non-racist organisation. We believe in border control. We believe in an Australian points-based system. But just because you want to control the numbers of people coming into the country doesn't necessarily make you racist. It doesn't matter what colour you are, what creed you are, what religion you are. If you've got the skills that this country needs, please come here and work. That is not a racist position, and UKIP is not a racist party.
Mark, why do you think UKIP are racist?
Well, I haven't had a chance to kind of create a robust report of all the things that have been in the media negatively for, and the homophobia and all the comments of people within the party. But I think we're all familiar with some of the things. You've touched on a few of the homophobic bits there. But I've just the things that are out in the media, and it just doesn't come across well. It doesn't come across as someone you believe that has the best interest for the country when...
Okay.
I mean, I'm pro-border control. I'm very pro-border control because we need to know, about people coming into the country. But the comments that people within the party have made and been in the newspapers and papers for and on the media is just unacceptable.
Peter Whittle.
Yeah, can I come in there? I mean, the thing with this, though, is that whenever anybody has said anything which is unacceptable, racist, whatever, they have been dealt with. They have been got out of the party. And as Paul said earlier, we are the only party that has those kind of restrictions on past membership. I do think there is a problem because you couldn't, with respect there, you couldn't actually say, well, what it is actually you were basing your comment on about us being racist. I mean, there has been in this country for a very long time, like 20 years, possibly even before UKIP was on the scene, this idea that to talk about immigration at all was sort of toxic and therefore racist, and therefore we didn't talk about it for a long time. Now, of course, it is absolutely in the midstream of all political discourse.
Suzanne?
Mark, your original question. What do you care about? What would make you get out and vote? What issues do you want UKIP to be talking about? And then I'll see if there are anything that you could...
We haven't got time to go into all of Mark's issues.
No, maybe you've got a top one, Mark.
Well, I don't think you should answer a question with a question, Suzanne. If you wouldn't mind answering.
No, it's just you did ask, what sort of things could I tell? So it's very difficult for me to be able to say exactly to you without knowing what. I think one of the things that made me attracted to UKIP is its position on direct democracy. Parliament used to answer to the people. It doesn't anymore. Most MPs are more frightened of their own whips.
You're not really
than
answering the question, so let's move on to John.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I was.
Well, you are. It was all about why do people think that UKIP are a racist
No, that wasn't
party?
Mark's original question.
It was
how would we appeal to him?
Yeah, I think how we'd get his vote. Yes.
Yes, that was the original question.
Yeah, and in fact, Mark, I'm actually very grateful that you've asked this question, because the situation you have at the moment is that the people who determine the character of UKIP and the direction it should move are the leaders. And so if you have a leader who says something that's either misconstrued or genuinely something bad, Therefore, the whole party becomes associated with that remark. Under the system that I am proposing, it will be the membership who determines what policies are absorbed into the party's manifesto. So if you don't want UKIP to be a racist party, what would happen? It's very, very interesting that you don't like the idea of consulting the people and direct
Suzanne
democracy.
was shaking her head.
That's not what I'm
saying.
You can't make policy like that.
Yes, you can.
You can.
And I can explain.
wrote the manifesto. I can tell you it doesn't work like that.
And you're the highly intelligent person that knows far better than all the members. So you're the one who should tell us the direction the party should go. I understand. That's precisely why I'm in this competition. It's because people like you think they know better than the ordinary people, and that's why I'm running.
Are you in this competition specifically to attack me?
No, I'm in this competition to implement a system of direct democracy to transfer decision-making powers from the leadership to the membership.
Paul, you look exasperated.
Look,
I'm not surprised.
Look, the last time that this happened, a party had this kind of direct democracy, Jonathan, and I'm a political historian. But forget the 5-star movement. I'm talking about this country. I'm talking about this country. It was Labour, 1983, and they came up with the longest suicide note in history.
Okay, we will.
Italy now. They didn't have the internet back then.
This isn't Italy.
Hang on.
They didn't have the internet.
We've got another 10 minutes to go, so we'll prepare ourselves for that. This is LBC. It's 5:47.
Cops versus robbers. The Capulets versus the Montagues. Drivers versus parking wardens. And now, the rivalry to end all rivalries. Epic savings on car versus home insurance. The Strutters saved on their car insurance. The Builders saved on their home insurance. But who is the most epic? Go to Money Supermarket to see where you could save the most.
Ian Dale at Drive on LBC.
Paul Nuttall, Suzanne Evans, Peter Whittle, John Rhys-Evans are with me debating the future of UKIP. They're the 4 UKIP leadership candidates. Go to our website if you want to watch us as well, lbc.co.uk, or on the LBC Facebook Live page. Yasser is in Mitcham. Hello, Yasser.
Hi, Ian. How are you?
Very well, thank you. What would you like to ask?
I would like to ask a question, but the future of UKIP looks very bright anyway. I wanted to ask, how long will Nigel Farage be putting his nose into politics, or into UKIP, even though he's been twice, for the party to succeed forward?
So really, does Nigel Farage need to keep out of UKIP for it to succeed? Suzanne Evans, I have to come to you first on that one.
Hi, Nasser. I used to live in Mitcham, so say hi to it for me, will you? I would love Nigel to stay involved with UKIP if I were leader, because the wealth of experience that he has...
As what, though?
As a kind of elder statesman figure.
Backseat driver?
No, not backseat driver. Elder statesman to whom I could go and say, Nigel, what do you think about this? Because that's how I used to work with Nigel, and it was fantastic. I absolutely valued his expertise, his immense knowledge of history, his knowledge of foreign affairs. And in much the same way, I think that Nicola Sturgeon now works with Alex Salmond. He's still very much there. He's that elder statesman figure in the party, and that's, I think, would be a perfect role for Nigel.
Look, Nigel is probably the most influential politician of the past 2 generations. There's no question about that. He gave us the referendum. So, yes, I would always want him to be there. Having said that, you've got to actually make sure he wants to be there, because at the moment, I think he seems to be enjoying this sort of other platform he's now on, where he's like going to America and going all around the world.
Doing LBC radio shows,
doing
that
sort of thing.
Do you know, Yasser, if you don't like Nigel Farage, then provided Paul Nuttall wins the leadership contest, you don't have to worry about a thing, because Paul Nuttall and Suzanne Evans have already announced their plan to shunt Nigel off into the political graveyard that is the House of Lords. They don't want to involve.
Anyway, hang on, Yasser. I'll come back to you in a second. Paul.
Anyway,
you're looking exasperated again.
Well, look, Nigel and I have worked together for years. We both came at this together. We both sorted out the party last time I had a similar existential crisis back in 2008. I've been his deputy for 6 years, and I think it would be fitting internally that Nigel becomes the honorary president of the party. And I think if he wants it and he deserves it, then a peerage should be on the cards, because Nigel, quite simply, even though he hasn't been in the House of Commons, has probably been the most influential politician since the turn of the century.
John says you're shunting him into a political graveyard if you put him in the House of Lords.
Well, you give him the option. If he wants to go into the House of Lords, he can go into the House of Lords. Let's not forget, he's not going to be an MEP after 2019, and neither am I. So, either he goes into the Commons or we give him a seat in the Lords if it's on offer. If UKIP gets offered peerages, Nigel Farage should be number one on the list.
Quick text from Paul in Nantwich. Are refugees from Calais a terror threat? John?
Do you know, it's fascinating that I should be asked that.
Well, I'm asking all of you. I haven't asked you first any of the questions yet.
It's fantastic.
So I've done it deliberately.
I like it. Because a couple of days ago, on Bulgarian national TV, they published a story where I actually went to the camp in Calais and I spoke to migrants to try to understand how it is that they come all the way over here. I actually spoken to about 39 migrants, most of which have made it to the UK. And what I've discovered is that they typically will sell their house out in Syria or wherever they come from, spend £3,500 travelling across Europe. Firstly, they've got to bribe the officials to get into Turkey out of Syria, which costs about £500. And then by the time they make it to Calais, they've got to find what used to be £3,000 to smuggle themselves across into Britain, and which is now £6,000. So it now costs an average investment of about £10,000 or £11,000 to get yourself from the Middle East, your conflict zone, into the UK. Now, I don't say that every migrant that comes here is not genuinely fleeing his life. I happen to know in Cardiff a Christian who was proselytizing a Muslim lady to become a Christian, and he was essentially summoned by the authorities, and it was pretty certain that he'd either go to jail or even face the death penalty. So there are certainly genuine migrants. But the reality is, of the 39 I spoke to, it would be my own assessment that roughly only 3 or 4 of them were genuinely fleeing their lives.
You mentioned Bulgaria a couple of times in this. Is it true you've got some sort of bunker in Bulgaria that you're going to go to if there's a global economic meltdown? This is what I've read.
I have not, as far as I know. I've not discovered it. The only subterranean property that I have within my building.
It says your compound in Bulgaria would protect your family in the event of global meltdown.
I'll talk to you about my compound in Bulgaria. You know you're getting that out of Vice. Okay, do you know anything about Vice? They go around the world.
It's actually the Daily Mirror.
The Daily Mirror got it directly from Vice. This chap who wrote this.
But is it true?
Listen.
Is it true?
This guy's a friend. I led an expedition for him in the Pyrenees. Okay, he came to visit me. He asked me to take him shooting. I took him shooting. And, he wanted to make some elaborate story because Vice will only publish something if it's all weird. Okay. So anyway, the fact is I've got 10 acres. I've got a nice garden wall. Okay. My wife, doesn't like GMO food and she likes organic. So we bought some land so we can grow our own food.
Right, you've cleared it up. You've cleared
Very
it
simple.
up. Peter Whittle, are refugees from Calais a terror threat?
Yeah, first can I say, Ian, actually, just to reassure the listeners and the viewers.
Well, just answer the question.
No. I mean, the fact is that there's a slight distortion in our conversation, actually, because, you're having a lot of fun with John here. And I mean, the truth of the matter is...
Well, he's a funny guy.
Yes, I know, he's very funny, but I've never even met him before. So, I mean, basically,
But you see, that says a lot, that he's standing for leader, and none of you have ever met him before.
Mm-hmm. No, but that's absolutely right.
In a way.
But the fact is, what it is for people listening, obviously, it might be a good laugh, whatever, but we're not really talking about the future of UKIP.
We've only got 5 minutes to go. Answer the question. Are refugees from Calais a terror threat?
I think that without question, and this is something that Nigel brought up 2 years ago and everyone laughed at him, and indeed probably called him racist too, is that the migration crisis across Europe was used as a cover for ISIS and for some people. That is a matter of fact now. We know that from the attacks.
And that's still going on.
Of course, why would we think it would not be? I mean, therefore, we have to be absolutely sure and absolutely clear about the people, obviously, that are coming into Britain.
Yeah, I would concur with that.
Suzanne?
Islamic State went on the record and said they were going to try and use those boats coming across the Mediterranean to bring their terrorists into Europe. Our own security services have highlighted the fact that this is a possibility and perhaps a likelihood. So I think we'd be rather daft to not take note of that.
And what do you make of the suggestion from the Tory MP David Davies that that so-called child migrants should have their teeth examined to check their age?
Do you know, when I saw those pictures of the child migrants coming in, I was actually furious. And there are children in desperate need in this country, languishing in children's homes, can't find adoptive parents, can't even find foster care. I like the rest of the country, was actually glad that we had the Dubs Amendment in Parliament and we agreed to take child refugees.
We haven't got time to go into the whole subject, but what about dental checks? Are you in favour of those?
If
Paul,
it's children we accept, it should be children we take.
Well, that depends on whether the dental checks are accurate or not, but it's not beyond the wit of man to tell.
Assuming they are.
It's not beyond the wit of man to tell the age of people who are coming into this country. And quite frankly, we should be checking, and equally we should know, are these refugees or are they economic migrants? If they're economic migrants, they're breaking international law, the Geneva Convention and the Dublin Protocol.
Is this Calais camp being used as a cover for terrorists?
Well, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, who knows what will happen?
Peter thinks he knows.
Who knows what will happen in the future?
But it could be.
I mean, look. The one thing that we do know is that freedom of movement of people, particularly across the Schengen area, in Europe, in the EU, has allowed people to drift across borders and not be checked. Okay, it happened with the Paris attack. It also happened with the Brussels attack earlier this year.
Let's move on to our next question. If you can be brief in the remaining questions, I'd be grateful because we've only got 5 minutes or so left. Peter's in Archway. Peter, what's your question, please?
Hi, hi Ian. Yeah, my question is about Russia. I believe that Vladimir Putin has expansionist designs on the former Russian spheres of influence in the Balkans. I also suspect that he's a sociopath presiding over...
Well, come on, get your question out, Peter, please.
Yeah, extreme right-wing nationalist. Does he pose a threat to our security in the UK? And if not, why not?
OK, Peter, thank you for that. While our panel are deliberating, let me remind you can watch us on Facebook Live via the LBC Facebook page or on the website at lbc.co.uk. So is Russia a threat? If not, why not? And do you admire Vladimir Putin? Peter Whittle.
He's a pretty unsavoury character, there's no question. I think that, obviously there is an expansionist impulse there's no question. I have to say, without wishing to go over old arguments too much, is that also there's a hugely expansionist impulse in the EU as well. And so this makes for a very, very difficult and very touchy situation.
Do you admire him in any way?
No, I mean, I think his people admire him. His people admire him hugely.
That's the question I asked.
No, I don't.
OK, well,
why would I?
That's very, what? Diane James, sitting in that very chair during the general election, said she did admire him. So, John?
Yeah, no, I don't really have an opinion about him. I don't
Suzanne.
He's a man who I think needs very careful handling. I think he does have expansionist ambitions, yes. I think some of his actions in Syria look certainly to be as close to war crimes as you can get war crimes. He's a man who needs very careful handling.
Paul?
I tend to agree with Suzanne. He does need careful handling, but I hasten to add that Vladimir Putin and Russia are not the greatest threat to humankind in this century. That's Islamic fundamentalism.
Well, you were very brief there. Thank you very much. Robert's in Finchley. Hello, Robert.
Hi, good evening. Question, if you become leader of the UKIP, would you prefer to deal with a President Clinton or a President Trump?
Suzanne Evans.
To be honest, I'm glad I'm American and I don't have a vote. But if I am leader of UKIP, I will deal with whichever president of America is chosen.
You're not going to get off that lightly.
No,
I'm
sorry.
Who would you prefer to deal with, President Clinton or President Trump?
I actually do not genuinely have a preference. And as a leader of Britain's third largest political party by vote share...
As somebody who wants to become a leader, you have no view on who the president of the world's only remaining superpower should be.
It's not that I have a view. If you are a leader of a political party, you respect democracy, Ian, and you work with whoever
UKIP
is elected.
Listening to this programme can rightfully expect that you, as a leadership candidate, tell them your view as to who you would prefer to see as President of the United States, because I'm pretty sure these three will.
Well, that's fine, they can, but I honestly don't have a view. I would work with whoever it is.
Paul?
I've made it perfectly clear. I don't particularly like either candidate, and if I was American, I'd probably vote for the Libertarian candidate, who's on 4% at the moment.
I'm concerned about some revelations that have come out recently about both candidates. But one thing that I would say in Trump's favour is that he's not in anyone's pocket. I think a lot of people get into politics because they can make money out of it, and I don't think that's the case with Trump.
The fact is that if you are a leader and you're having to treat with another leader, you have to deal with the person who's been elected. But I would say this. Hillary, I think, is a deeply unsavoury character like Putin. And at the same time, with Trump, my feeling is very much right cause, wrong man. I think many of the issues that Trump actually highlights are really important ones. But my God, there's very little to admire in him as a person, I believe.
Here.
Suzanne, final opportunity.
No, I'm not moving.
Okay. Paul, you in the past couple of days have said that you would like to see a referendum on the death penalty.
No, I didn't.
Well, you kind of did. You said if enough people signed a petition,
that didn't say I wanted one. How
would you vote in such a referendum?
Well, it's pretty obvious how I'd vote it. I would vote in favour of a return for the death penalty for people who kill children, people like Ian Brady and people like Ian Huntley, which is what the majority of British people want. However, this has been UKIP policy since 2005. If enough people sign a petition, I think we put it at 5% of the electorate in the last manifesto. I'd probably up it to 10% and put a time limit on it. But if enough people sign the petition, it would trigger a referendum. It happens in Switzerland and it works very well indeed.
Suzanne?
I'm vehemently opposed to the reintroduction of the death penalty. I always have been, but the case of Stefan Kiszko, if you don't know that case, do look it up, absolutely clinched it for me.
John?
I think there'd need to be some pretty strict criteria in terms of the burden of evidence, but provided that was kind of dealt with, I would vote in favour of the death penalty in the case of specifically paedophiles and child killers.
And you think it should be put to a referendum?
I think many things should be put to a referendum, but using the kind of technology that I'm advocating in my campaign on my website.
But sort of all proven paedophiles you would give the death penalty to?
Yes.
Okay, Peter.
But sorry, with paedophile, I wouldn't necessarily say someone who looked 18 and was 15 and a half. So in terms of establishing the parameters for that, it would have to be...
But you see that you see that's interesting because you said yes, and then you thought for a minute, and then you immediately caveat it. Now a leader can't do that, can they?
Well, no, the fact is that if you want to make this a semantic debate, we'd have to sit down and we'd each have to write...
It's not a semantic... Shall I answer?
Shall I
answer?
Hang on a second.
Because I haven't had the opportunity to clarify my answer. It obviously depends what you define as a paedophile. Okay, in some countries it's legal to get married.
What do you define as a
much
paedophile?
Younger? Someone who is prepubescent. I would have the death penalty for somebody who's evidently prepubescent.
Below 12.
Yeah, I'd have.
So 13-year-olds are fair game, are they?
They're fair game for the current punishments that we dish out to people right now. Yeah.
Peter Whittle.
I don't agree with the death penalty, actually. And I also don't particularly... I think if you're going to have it, you have it for murder or whatever it is. You don't have particular groups that should, have the death penalty. I just don't think there's logic there. It's not a big moral thing, though, I would say. It's not a kind of moral position at all. It's just whether it actually works. I would be much, much more inclined to say that we have to have a much more rigorous general legal system, right? And it's a bit of a red herring, I think, to talk about capital punishment. And, also, I think the majority of people now have moved away from it. I think, in the 1970s...
Paul hasn't.
No, Paul hasn't. But, the majority of people, I think you used to get huge majorities for it, Paul, but you don't anymore.
Though, Peter.
Well, it might be, but it's kind of slim.
If you caveat it with children or police officers, it shoots right up to about 80%.
We are going to have to finish there. We have gone a little over our time. Paul Nuttall, Suzanne Evans, John Rhys-Evans, Peter Whittle, thank you very much indeed. If you've enjoyed this so much, you'd like to see it all over again, it will be on the LBC website as a video within the hour. This is LBC, it's 4 minutes past 6. Hello, a very good evening. It's coming up to 4 minutes past 4. Welcome to the LBC UKIP Leadership Debate. It's the first time the four candidates have debated each other. They're here live, taking your questions for the next hour. They are the leader of UKIP in the European Parliament, Paul Nuttall, former Deputy Chairman Suzanne Evans, culture spokesman GLA member Peter Whittle, and former UKIP candidate for Cardiff, John Rhys-Evans. 0345 6060 973. And you can watch the whole debate on the LBC website at lbc.co.uk and on Facebook Live on the LBC Facebook page. Well, welcome to all four of you. We're going to get straight into it and go to the calls. Victoria is... you need to put your headphones on, by the way.
All right.
It's radio, after all, even though people can watch. Victoria is in Stansted. Victoria, what's your question?
Oh, hello there. Good afternoon. I agreed recently with Stephen Wolf, who claimed that UKIP is ungovernable and in a death spiral, and I wondered who you think is to blame for that state of affairs.
Suzanne Evans.
Ungovernable? You just watch me. I'll show you, Victoria. It's definitely not ungovernable. You know, we might have had some troubles in the past, but all political parties go through tough spots. But I think UKIP, we had 4 million voters at the general election. We have a great manifesto on which to build more policies. I think we have a real opportunity now because the Labour Party is so utterly failing working people in this country. I think this is a world of opportunity for UKIP out there. And if I'm leader, I cannot wait to get started.
But with all of the things that have gone on since the referendum, Nigel Farage's will he, won't he, sort of continue or not, with what happened with Diane James, with the role of the National Executive Committee, which I know is a bit of a sort of Westminster bubble thing. But your party is seen by the outside world as in a complete and utter mess and ungovernable. But you don't seem to recognise that description.
We have the chance to wipe the slate clean. We're here, all four of us, all good candidates who I know can take the party forward. And that's where we must start from. I said wipe the slate clean. I think I actually want to clarify that. We have a great legacy that Nigel Farage has left us that we can build on. But now, chance for a new leader to perhaps take a slightly new approach.
Hang on a minute, because you said that UKIP's image was toxic. That surely is Nigel Farage's legacy. Well, you did it. I heard you say it myself.
No, I didn't say that at all. I mean, why would I be in a party if I thought that was the truth?
You said the party needs to shed its toxic image. You said it on the Andrew Marr show.
That's very different from saying it's toxic. We're talking about an image. And I'm in UKIP, and part of the reason I want to lead UKIP is because I want to show a wider range of people just how fantastic UKIP is and what great policies we have.
John Rhys-Evans, most people listening to this programme, with respect, will have never heard of you. Why do you think that unreasonable?
Completely not, actually. I think that this is one of the problems, really, with the whole discussion about us at the moment. You know, when you look at most political parties, UKIP is extraordinarily united.
Oh, come on.
It is extraordinary.
You're a rabble.
No, we are not a rabble.
Look at the conflict in Wales between Neil Hamilton and the guy that actually was leader of UKIP in Wales. Look at the conflicts between Suzanne and Nigel Farage and Aaron Banks's comments over the past few weeks. You are totally disunited.
No. Look, I'm talking about the membership. We've got 40,000 members. They are extremely united in what they believe. Everybody knows what we believe, and that is extraordinary these days in politics. What we've got to do, of course, is sort out, if you like, the people at the top and get all of that sorted out so we can go forward. I think that the point
what makes you the person to do that?
Because for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, UKIP needs a period of stability. My temperament is a stable one. You know, I don't search for conflict. That's for sure. It also... Hang on, let me finish.
Who's unstable around the table?
No, I'm not saying that.
You said you're stable, so that indicates you think maybe one or two of these aren't.
No, it doesn't. But I think that basically...
Well, why bring it up?
Because it's what actually we need as a party. We need, as a party, a period of stability.
Was Nigel Farage unstable?
No, not at all. But you just
you're
said
the one that brought up the word. So
yes,
therefore
because
that differentiates you from other candidates. That's all I'm trying to point out.
No, because what the question you asked me, Ian, was simply that we are a rabble, that we're ungovernable and all the rest of it.
Do you want to retract that word?
No, I do not want to. We need a period of stability. We need a period, therefore, of morale boosting, and then we need to be inspired. And those three things are the important steps for UKIP going towards the 2020 election.
Do you think that you are more inspirational than Paul Nuttall?
I think that I wouldn't be in this race unless I thought actually that I could do the right job. I think we're all excellent candidates.
Because he can be quite charismatic when he puts his mind to it, can't he?
Yeah, absolutely. We all have different skills, but I think that what I would say is that it's terribly important at the moment that we have just a period of calm and of rebuilding. But then after that has to come inspiration.
I don't think 4 weeks of a leadership contest is the recipe for calm, but there we go. Paul Nuttall Whittle, you are pitching yourself as the unity candidate. How can you govern what I've just described as a rabble?
Going back to Victoria's question, Ian, we haven't covered ourselves in glory. Not just over the past couple of months, but probably over the past year, really. UKIP has been dysfunctional. It's quite clear. And I think UKIP at the moment is basically peering over the edge of a political cliff. And it will either step off or it will step back. And I believe I'm the best candidate to ensure that UKIP doesn't step off.
First of all, do you think that UKIP is ungovernable? And how can you, as somebody who's relatively unknown, make it governable?
The fact is, I think that if things continue the way they are, if we have business as usual, UKIP will indeed be ungovernable. I believe that we need to have major reform in UKIP, and I'm not talking about minor configurational changes. I'm talking about implementing a system of internal direct democracy. As long as potential leaders are always vying against each other to determine who should determine the future direction of the party, there will always be conflict. But if we transfer decision-making powers from the leadership to the membership, we will never be in conflict because everybody in this country respects
well in the Labour
democracy.
Party, hasn't it?
No, they don't have direct democracy in the Labour Party. UKIP would be the first political party in Britain to implement it. You understand what I mean by direct democracy?
I do understand what you mean, but what I meant by that was Labour has given its members far more power, and it actually hasn't helped them, has it?
No. What I'm talking about has absolutely nothing to do with what Labour has done. I'm talking about a highly systematic system whereby every member from everywhere within the country, from the farthest reaches of Scotland, the Outer Hebrides, to West Wales, all over the country, people who don't have the opportunity to rub shoulders with the highly placed people in London, they will have just as much opportunity to determine the future direction of the party as the leader himself.
OK, Peter Whittle, is it ungovernable?